Hello, everyone, and welcome to my service delivery presentation where I will discuss my fieldwork site, service delivery idea, and its impact. So, I completed my level 2B fieldwork at Performance Rehab Kansas KCOI, which stands for Kansas City Orthopedic Institute. They're an outpatient physical therapy and hand clinic, so they only have either PTs or CHTs on staff. And some common conditions seen include post op injuries like distal radius fractures, CMC arthroplasties, and rotator cuff repairs, as well as some acute injuries that might not require surgery, just like fractures that need to be splinted for healing. And then some chronic conditions like arthritis or tendonitis, as well as nerve pathologies like carpal, radial, and ulnar tunnel. Since splinting is done quite often and can be pretty overwhelming, my idea would be to provide new hires with the splinting workshop as well as materials. That way, it'll increase confidence and feelings of preparedness going into the field. Performance Rehab has, I think, 11 clinics, one main clinic inside of Kansas City Orthopedic Institute, where they have an urgent care and surgeons, and then also 10 peripheral clinics that sort of are more standalone businesses. Either way, the OTs there have to splint quite often. And as a student, I honestly didn't realize how many different kinds of splints there are. So I just sort of attached a few of the different splints there. There's a long arm elbow splint used for different elbow injuries. There's a Munster splint, which is used for intra-articular fractures of the wrist. That way, so you can still bend and flex and extend the elbow, but it doesn't allow you to pronate or supinate your forearm. And then an ulnar gutter splint, which is used for metacarpal fractures. So, the idea behind the splinting workshop would maybe be to review and practice the 5 most common splints to familiarize new hires and expose them to these common orthoses. And as part of this idea, new hires would also be given this book called Introduction to Orthotics by Coppard and Lohman. I found this to be super interesting. I think it'd be helpful. It includes how to videos on fabrication of orthotics. It also includes review questions and self quizzes, as well as case studies. And you can find it even on Amazon or other places for around $20 to $30. And evidence shows that practice and review can increase competence and confidence. So, some key stakeholders would be the CHTs. They are the ones directly impacted just because they are the ones that would go through the workshop, and it would help them with their confidence and feelings of preparedness. The KCOI patients and families, they're the ones that are getting splinted. So if the therapist is familiar with the splint, the chances of coming in for an adjustment decreases, and as well as KCOI doctors. And they're the ones that are referring the patients to the clinics. So if they have a poor splinting experience, it can reflect on just Kansas City Orthopedic Institute and Performance Rehab as a whole. And the splinting workshop can be justified because it would have a huge impact in many different ways. I believe it would increase employee readiness and confidence, which impacts both employee and patient satisfaction. And then even this patient satisfaction could lead to increased referrals. You know, if someone goes in and says, or they get their a CMC arthroplasty and their friend says, hey, I really need this, it's more likely that the patient can refer them to us. And I know that may not always work out depending on insurance and everything, but it definitely could help. And then increased feelings of preparedness can increase productivity for employees, especially clinics with splint blocks. So, some performance rehab clinics have time blocks specifically for splint walk ins. So, the more confident and skilled a therapist is, they could potentially get more splints done during that time. And to track its impact, a qualitative pre post survey could be administered to the new hires. So, this would allow performance rehab administration to see the results and increase in feelings of employee readiness for orthotic fabrication. And here are my references. Thanks for listening.